Today we are looking at 4.5, adding fractions. You'll need to understand the previous topics if you are to do this one well. Alright, so when you add fractions, sometimes they have common denominators. So this means they have the same bottom numbers. So in this case you can see that 3/8 and 2/8 both have 8 as their denominator. So that is called a common denominator. Now when they have common denominators, it's really easy to add the fractions. It means they've been divided up into the same number of pieces, and so we can easily add them together. The main thing you need to remember when adding fractions with common denominators is that you need to keep the denominator here. You do not add the bottom numbers, so do not add the denominators together. Remember, that means the number of pieces it's been broken up into. So the only numbers you add are the numerators. So you add 3 and 2, that equals 5, but you keep the same denominator when you are adding these fractions. So you need to write that down, obviously. Now I'm going to do some examples with you. These are really easy to do, as long as you remember the main thing is to keep the denominators the same. Alright, so here we go. 3 plus 2 is 5. And remembering we just have the same denominator because they're both cut pieces, which is 9. And again, here we go. 3 plus 2 is 5. We like adding up to 5. And then you keep the same denominator. I only need you to write one of those examples down, please. Now, when it gets a bit more complicated is when you're adding them with unlike denominators. So this means the bottom numbers are not the same. It's not broken up into the same number of pieces, so it can't be easily added together. Alright, so this example, 1/3 and 1/4, we can't compare them and add them correctly in this state because they're not, their denominators are not the same. They are not broken up into the same number of pieces. So we need to do more than just add the numerators and keep the denominators. So you can see over the right hand side here, I've just written what not to do. So you don't leave the numerators the same and add the denominators. You don't just add the numerators and also add the denominators. You have to do something else. So you need to write this down, and you also need to write this down. So when you are adding fractions with unlike denominators, so the bottom numbers are not the same, these are the steps. Step 1 is to find the lowest common multiple of the denominators. Now we've looked at that in term 1. So we just need to remember back to finding the lowest common multiple. So the number that is the thing they have in common, okay? The one that they can both be multiplied to. And sometimes that means just multiplying the two denominators together. Step 2 is to convert fractions to the common denominators. So this is the tricky bit. So you need to watch me when I do the example so that you can fully understand how to convert fractions to common denominators. However, I am going to teach you a very tricky way of doing it so that if you can't understand how to do that way, you can use my tricky way and you'll still come out with the same result. Alright, then basically you go on to do what you did with, if they have this common denominators, you add the numerators, keep the denominator the same. Then you need to make sure you simplify the answer, which means break it down into its simplest form, which we've learnt about before. Right, I'm going to do some examples with you. So we have 1/2 and 1/4. Obviously that's not able to be added together because they're not the same. So we have to, here I am scrolling all over the screen. Right, we have to change them to common denominators. Now sometimes, as in this case, the common denominator or the multiple they have in common is actually one of the denominators already. So in this case, it's 4. So 2 and 4 both be evenly divided into 4. So we don't actually have to change the 1/4 fraction, we just have to change 1/2 into quarters. So to do that, we have to work out what we did to the 2 to get to the quarter, to get into quarters. So we times 2 by 2, didn't we? To get to 4, to get to quarters. So when we're changing this into quarters, we have to what we do to the bottom, we have to do to the top. So if we multiplied 2 by 2 to get 4, then we have to multiply 1 by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So 2/4 equals 1/2. Then we can just add the other quarter in, and then we are just doing what we did before with the common denominators, because they're both common denominators there. So we keep the denominator the same and add the numerators together. Alright, this one's a bit trickier. The second example, 1/3 and 3/5. Now 3 and 5, they don't go into each other, so what we need to do is find the lowest number that both of those numbers will actually evenly go into. And in this case, you can actually just multiply 3 and 5 together to get 15. So 15 is actually their lowest common multiple. Alright, so what did we do to the 3 to get to 15? So we times the 3 by 5 to get 15, so that's what we have to do to this 1. We have to times it by 5, so 1 times 5 is 5. And then what did we do the 5? We times it by 3, didn't we? So we have to times the numerator by 3, so 3 3s are 9. So these are their equivalent fractions as 50, with 15 as the denominator. Right, then we just add it up. 14 over 15. Now we can see here that is in its simplest form. Both these fractions are in its simplest form. We can't break that down anymore. So therefore, that is our answer. I just need you to write one of these examples down. Thank you. Alright, now this is my tricky way that I'm going to teach you. So sometimes you might want to use this one, or you might want to use this one all the time. Alright, so it's called the butterfly method, because when I do my little drawings on here, it'll look like a butterfly. Okay, so basically the trick is we multiply the diagonals together, and that will give us the numerators of the new fraction. Then we just multiply the denominators together. So I'll show you what I mean. It's like we learnt to when we were comparing fractions. So we're multiplying 3 times 6. 3 6s are 18. And that's our new numerator. Then we multiply 5 times 5. 5 5s are 25. So that looks like a butterfly, doesn't it? Alright, we also, though, have to multiply 5 times 6 to get our new denominator, which is 30. Now this won't necessarily be the lowest common multiple, so you probably have to simplify these fractions a lot more than you do with the other ones. So let's add 25 and 18. So that's 43. Now you can see that now this has come out to an improper fraction, so we need to change it into a mixed number and maybe reduce it down a little bit further. So obviously 130 will go into 43, and then it's got 13 left over. Now I just have to check if I can reduce 13 and 30 anymore, but I can't because they don't have 13's an odd number, so I can't actually reduce that down anymore. It doesn't, it's a prime number. Okay, so write that example down for me. I'm just going to do one more. Okay, so here we go. Again, just to clarify what I mean so you can understand it even better. So we are multiplying 3 times 8. 3 8s are 24. We're multiplying 2 11s are 22. And we're also multiplying 11 times 3 to get our new denominator. 3 11s are 33. Now we add the numerators, don't forget, don't get confused. We multiply the denominators, but we add the numerators. So that will be 46. Again, it's a mixed number. So 1, 33 into 46. And then we've got 13 over 33. Seems to be common themes running down here. Alright, so 1 and 13 over 33. 13 is a prime number, therefore cannot be reduced any further, and that is your answer. So hopefully this has given you a bit more information about adding fractions. Now I'm going to talk about adding mixed numbers now, so it's a bit different because you've got the whole numbers involved. But it's pretty easy because all you need to do is add the whole numbers and then work the fractions like you do adding fractions. Okay, so in this case 3 1/2 and 8 2/3 equals, so 8 and 3 is 11, so that it's 11 whole. But then we have to find the common denominator of these ones. So I would probably write this again as our working out, and then I would do the next. Remember to put the equal signs underneath each other. So the answer will still be 11, and so we can just multiply 3 times 3 is 6. So it's going to be a common denominator, whoops, of 6. So 2 times 3 is 6. So 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. And that will be 11 and 7 sixes. Now we're not finished yet here now because you can see that it's an improper fraction, so we actually have one other whole. So it's 12 and 1/6 is our answer. So can you please write that down as an example? I'm just going to do one more. Alright, so 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 2/3 and 3/4. Make sure you are making note of the working out. You'll be required to do this working out correctly. So then we have 3 plus, let's use the butterfly method this time. Alright, I'll do it in 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 3, 3 is 9, 3 4s, 12. So we'll be using 12ths as our denominator. We have 8 12ths and 9 12ths. So that will equal 3 and 17 12ths. 4 and 5 12ths. Alright, that does not need to be simplified either. So just do make sure that you simplify any fractions that you have to. And good luck.